Welcome to Soul Mastery for the soul-led entrepreneur who desires it all, purpose, power, profits. I'm your host, Chaitali, business and success mentor, utilizing the neuroscience of business to help female entrepreneurs increase their impact while increasing their income. And today, I have such a special guest. She's a colleague. We are both on the Women's Summit, our Women Thrive Summit in March. We're both speakers there, and I thought it would be beautiful to bring Krystle Hearley on with us today to talk about relationship dynamics. Krystle is not only my colleague, but a relationship and confidence coach. Welcome to the show, Krystle. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited for this talk.
Oh, God, me too. So before we dive into it, I did a little bit of an introduction about you, but why don't you share with my audience a little bit about who you are, what you do, what your magic is?
Oh, thank you. I started this journey as a licensed psychotherapist, and I quickly learned that I had this one type of client, which was single women that were trying to date. And it seemed like we had really good success, and I had so much fun with my clients that I really just wanted to focus on it full time. And that's how I branched out into this. I bring with me the clinical experience as a therapist so that we can start helping them unlearn limiting beliefs and how they talk to themselves and really build their confidence so that they go after what they want. They don't settle for less. And I say that I try to help them so they don't have to start back at square one again.
Oh, I think that's so important, especially in this day and time, because, we're moving so fast. And I mean, I'm not sure what the dating scene is really like right now, but I feel like I have several friends who are single, like post-divorce and ready to kind of start connecting again, right? To have a partnership, to have that dynamic. But coming back into that, it's a daunting task, and the communication style now has changed. So I'd love to kind of dive
Mm.
into a little bit of, I know that was like several different things, but I think they all kind of tie in together as as women are starting to like claim who they are, claim their desires, and really say, hey, I'm ready for this. How do they even begin?
Well, a little brief snippet about me is that I too am divorced. I married young and I was divorced by 21. And I really think that a divorce can be helpful in the journey of finding like your life partner, a healthy relationship. If someone values marriage and they want one person forever, I completely support my divorce helped me recognize the significance of marriage. I was so young, I just didn't even understand. But we learn a lot from past relationships, whether it is divorce or boyfriend girlfriend, whatever relationship, because we learn how to talk about things. We learn what doesn't work for us. We hopefully practice talking about things, and it takes us a while to know ourselves. So if you're divorced and you're getting back in there, yes, the dating scene is different, but learning how to authentically just communicate what's inside of you, I think that's timeless, you know?
But it's daunting.
Oh,
So
it's
when you say like authentically share who you are, I mean, that's I feel it's nuanced and it's so layered, especially in this cancel culture environment
mm.
we have going on right now. So when you say living authentically or speaking authentically, like what does that actually mean for you? Let's start there and then we can kind of grow from there.
Yeah, for me it means one, knowing yourself, and two, being confident in yourself, and three, communication really is a skill that people can learn. You might not be great at communicating, and then you're actively trying to learn it, which is awesome. You're never too old to learn, right? And I have an example of when I never expressed anger, and then I dated a boyfriend, and he literally broke up with me and said that I was too angry of a person. It's like,
Oh.
Yeah, we go through learning curves and it's okay. Like that didn't work out and I didn't know how to express my anger yet, but I worked on that and now I still get angry, but I can more authentically being kind to others is a value of mine. So speaking kindly to others is me authentically sharing who I am.
Okay. And so, like, when you're sharing, I'm sure, like, so for me, it's not always the words that matter, it's the tone. Ooh, if the tone comes across wrong, I know it can really like set my, it doesn't go well a lot of times. So, communication and and any relationship, right? Even in business, because business at the end of the day is it's building relationships. So when we're looking at this, like your style of communication often comes from like is it attachment styles, right? I'm sure in your with your background, like that must have come into play. So when they're starting to deal with this, like how can you become more empowered in communicating your needs? Because that again, it's nerve-wracking for people to say, hey, this is what I need, and just genuinely put that out there.
Yeah, there's a few different ways I would answer that. First, it absolutely has to deal with attachment style and even more broadly, how we watch people talk to each other and talk to us as we were growing up. Um, I talk to clients that they watch their family members yell at each other, so they don't really know how to have I don't wanna use the word conflicting, different viewpoints on something without it turning to conflict, and unlearning that idea that communication equals conflict is something that I work with so many people on.
Oh, that's really interesting. And you're giving a gift to the audience too, right? So 12 key phrases to ignite communication, not conflict. It kind of seems like, I don't think people I don't okay, let me backtrack for a second. When I think of communication, conflict is kind of like the undercurrent. You're like, okay, how can I say something without it turning out bad? So how can we start to step into that? Especially here in like 2024, I feel like there's so much space
Mm.
to be able to share how you feel, what your needs are, and then how can we start implementing this in our relationships, whether existing relationships or new relationships. I know that was a lot, so
I was just gonna say that was a lot.
sometimes
Uh,
my brain works really fast and I have to get it out before I lose it.
that's okay, me too. All right, so couple of things. I like to So you said the undercurrent is conflict, and you actively think to yourself, like, how can this not be conflict? Some people aren't even at that level. So I would encourage them to think about what they want to share and asking themselves, how can I not? How can this not lead to conflict? Whether it is my tone, whether it is the words I use. Another tool I really like visuals.
Oh,
So in a conversation, there's you and there's the other person, and we can put the topic as a completely separate entity. So the person isn't your problem, the topic is your problem. And that way we're not attacking the person, we're not blaming the not person. Like a easy example is like you don't answer your cell phone when you're out with your friends. Why don't you answer your cell phone? Whereas the topic would be the you statements versus the I statements. Like it it makes me uncomfortable when I'm not able to reach someone by their cell phone when they're out with others. Does that sound different?
yeah, completely, because it's detached now. You took the emotional charge out of it, right? And so now
Yeah.
you're actually able to have that healthy conversation.
Yeah, ask them. What are your views on being out with friends and not answering your cell phone? Like let's also get curious in a conversation. And that's another way to help avoid it turning into conflict.
Oh, I love that. And so as you're delving into this, there must be a lot of resistance.
It's hard.
Because you're asking people to kind of change. Communication is so paramount to who we become, right? Like to a certain degree, it's almost like a calling card.
Mm.
So going in and saying, okay, well, we're going to tweak this, tweak that. What do you do with the resistance that comes up?
I love to start small. I think that no step is too small. So I encourage people to speak up more about positive things too, because I think, we keep so much inside, and that includes positive feelings. If it's hard for you to bring up the idea that something hurt your feelings, start by telling your partner, again, any relationship, a compliment like, "Oh, such and such made me feel happy," or "That really made me feel loved," or that is a softer way to still be vulnerable. You're still being vulnerable by saying that stuff, but it starts as a positive moment. I heard someone say just recently, tell someone something that you're not 100% sure you're comfortable with them knowing. And I like the way that was phrased, like just something that makes you just a tiny bit out of your comfort zone.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's that book, oh shoot, it's the five love
Languages.
languages.
Yes.
So how can like I think that's such a cool resource. As not, I know I couldn't think of the name fast enough, but what I loved about it was we all do have a different style of communication. Some is
Mhm.
more tactical, more physical. Some is like words of appreciation, acts of service, and I can't think of the other two right now. But what I love about that is if you can focus on sharing what we need sometimes, right? It's kind of
Yes.
like reverse engineering it almost. Like for myself, it's words of encouragement. Like I'll do everything that doesn't affect me, but what that doesn't bother me, excuse me. But then it's like be appreciative, even as simple
Exactly. Yeah.
as like, hey, thanks for picking up my sock on the ground. You know what I mean? Like small stuff, but it's that small stuff that adds up over time, I imagine, right? Just from my
Absolutely.
own experience.
Yeah, those small moments absolutely build up over time towards the positive direction or the negative direction. And the interesting thing about the 5 love languages is people love researching like what's my love language. But what is your partner's love language? Are you trying to talk to them from your love language, or are you trying to talk to them through their love language?
Yeah. So I heard something recently, and it was that change you desire, and this is not verbatim, this is kind of ad libbing it, but basically that change you desire to see or that feeling you desire to evoke, start speaking to it.
Hmm.
So in the case, well, for me, for like, okay, I want the appreciation. So then saying like, hey, I really appreciated you did this for me, or I really loved how that happened. Thank you so much for helping me. Like, is that kind of another way to approach it? Or
Definitely demonstrating it, because if you're already in a relationship, you already have dynamics set up of what you talk about, what you don't talk about, how you approach conversations, how you don't. And if you're dating, you get to start from scratch. You get to start the dynamics, the precedent right off the bat. But if you already have a relationship with this person of any sort, that you have to change the dynamic. So demonstrating how you want the two of you to communicate kind of, just gets the other person more used to it. It starts to feel more comfortable. There's a small joke between my husband and I, is that every once in a while I tell him that we need to talk. And
oh,
And I tell him I'm just trying to desensitize him to that statement, because it's a natural statement for me. But he, and I know many others feel the same way, is like, oh, something bad's coming after that.
yes,
But I don't,
100%.
yeah, I don't want him to think that. So it's a running joke we have. But I hopefully underground, it's doing what I hope it's doing.
Yeah, no, for sure. Because I mean, you hear it long enough, then you kind of just like assume, like, oh, okay, it's just another whatever. What are we going to have for dinner tonight? Conversations. Um, but then, if you're going down that path, when it's an important conversation, how do you bring it to the table?
That's a great question. Yeah, I know that he likes physical touch. We haven't like formally done the love languages, but
Yeah,
and so I make sure that there are no distractions. I make sure even physical touch doesn't mean we need to be touching each other, but proximity. We're close to each other. Like I'm giving him my full attention, I'm asking for his full attention, and I approach it from me. All I can do in a conversation is express how something is impacting me or what I need or what I want. He's not doing anything wrong. It's just in the context of how I would like a situation to be. So I don't know if that helps, but it's like I, I need more help with such and such. You're not doing anything wrong by sitting on the couch when you get home from work, but this is what I need.
right. And I love that because it is, I mean, it's hard for women to say, to really claim, again, like we said in the beginning, to claim what they want. And so, baby steps, right? You're talking about, so how, like, when, for women who are listening right now and they're like, ooh, she wants me to say what I'm actually feeling. What's a great baby step?
Write it down. You know, they
Oh,
talk
that's,
yeah.
I did not expect that answer. Okay.
I'm talking real baby. We don't even have to go to that person first. Like,
Okay.
write a journal, get it out of your head. Say it to a therapist if you want. I wouldn't necessarily say it to a friend because everybody responds differently to things, but getting it to a neutral outlet. So, therapist or a journal. I'm not encourage if you love to journal, awesome. But this is just like a let me write it down. This is what I want to say. Maybe say it out loud. See how things sound differently than how they read. So it's just thinking before you speak, the cliche.
Okay. And if people wanted to work with you, Crystal, how are they going to find you, or what's like a great way to connect with you?
I like to keep it simple. So I just ask them to text me. And my phone number is 518-212-7417.
Okay. Well, we'll definitely keep that in the show notes. And
Thanks.
if they want, and let's just quickly talk about your gift, communication, not conflict, like 12 key phrases. How did that come about?
People, my whole life, I've written letters, and people, even boyfriends that I've broken up with, have told me that that was like the nicest letter they've received. So there's something with communication that just seems to come natural to me. It's not as daunting as I know it can be for people. So I tried to break down ways that I would approach a conversation, and the phrases give the person something to have in their back pocket so that it is a little less daunting and they have a little more confidence going into it. But there is some narratives and activities in the resource also. So it's just a little boost of confidence.
Oh, I love that. For those of you guys who are listening, definitely connect with Crystal. All of her information will be in the show notes along with her gift. So definitely download that. Crystal, I'm so excited for this episode to air and for our talk in March. I cannot wait for everyone to join us at the Women Thrive Summit. It is going to be so juicy.
Same.
I am so excited to not only give my talk, but to hear all the talks that are going to be there because these are some powerhouse women that'll be there. And Crystal, thank you so much. Before we sign off today, I like to ask all of my guests, give us something that brings you joy.
My two dogs, my little family, my husband and my two dogs, they're both sheepadoodles and they are basically humans.
I have no idea what a sheepadoodle looks like, so I'm going to have to Google that, but it sounds very sweet. Crystal, thank you so much for joining us today. And to our guests, like always, I'm wishing you a beautiful day. And remember, anything is possible once you decide. Thank you so much, and until next time.